Y'all ready out here? Yeah! All right, okay. Here we go, folks. Go Bills, for we are here to cheer for you. Go Bills, we are your fans so true.
Okay.
With victory
welcome to the fucking inaugural episode.
Whoa, clearly this is an R-rated podcast.
It is. Actually, I had to decide today when I was setting the thing up to submit it, whether or not we would be an explicit podcast or a clean podcast. I've already selected explicit, so we're in the clear.
Well, fucking A.
Anyhow, this is the inaugural episode of the Post-Drought Reconstruction Podcast.
Yes, caught that up. Thank you.
I'm here with
Phil Burke.
And I'm Josh Folan, and we are two dudes that are unqualified, but nonetheless impassioned to talk Buffalo Bills football.
Absolutely. We are two ill people, mentally, spiritually.
Being Bills fans.
Being Buffalo Bills fans
question.
is a sadomasochistic occupation, and one that Josh embraces to no end. And it's very
motivated.
interesting to watch, to say the least.
I am motivated. I think that's probably the first thing we planned on doing, just explaining how and why we're Bills fans, and while maybe unqualified on a professional level to be
certainly
analyzing the Buffalo Bills, we are certainly qualified on the emotional front for the long tenures that we've spent watching this team. Let us down in many cases, but also provide some happiness, as this year,
fleeting moments of joy.
Yeah, fleeting moments of happiness.
But yet joy nonetheless.
Yeah. So let's go into, I guess, what I was thinking was we would explain how long we've been Bills fans.
Yes.
The first Bills game we ever watched, the first we ever went to, and how that led to us watching for the rest of our lives.
Well, I'll start off. Again, Phil Burke, originally from Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Being from that part of the world, the closest NFL team to us would have been the Buffalo Bills. I am currently 35 years old, so I was born in 1982. And I remember Sundays. Sundays was always, we had hockey practice on Sundays. And then after hockey...
Fittingly, mandatory in Canada.
Oh, yeah. It's absolutely. That's it. Sunday, hockey, bam. No, for my team, I was playing with Port Credit at the time, which is where we lived. The suburbs of Toronto, if you will. In beautiful Lake Ontario. And so, you'd come home from practice, and then after practice, the only thing that was on was the NFL. And I remember getting changed and changing, and because your parents want to sleep in, and you can't wake them up, and then they just kind of roll out of bed. They take you to the rink, right? So you dress at home and in the basement. And I remember the only thing that was on at the time at 7, 8 in the morning was NFL films. And so that was sort of my first introduction to what football, or in Europe and Ireland they'll call it smash mouth, was actually about. And you just kind of, Buffalo was the only team that was really reported on the most, say in the Toronto Star, or just because of the geographic proximities. And the fact that at 8 years old it was 1990 and Buffalo was one of the best teams in the league.
They were ramping up,
and it was great. So now, if I imagine if I was 8 years old now, I wonder if I wouldn't be a Pats fan. You know what I mean? Because I bet you, because I remember guys at recess, and it's oh, what's football? And you play football at recess, right? Even though we really didn't know. I mean, we have CFL, Toronto Argonauts, which is a great game in itself, and that should be our next podcast, actually. Anyhow, but yeah,
I'll have to do some research first. I don't have as much to draw on.
I think most Canadians would have to do research themselves. But anyway, so the Buffalo Bills were great and they were amazing. And I remember just it was between the NFL films and then coming back from hockey practice, and before your own road hockey game. So you go to practice, come home. You figure out the Bills are on or whatever. Your dad might be watching them. And then you go out and play road hockey in the afternoon. And I can't necessarily say the first game that I remember watching on TV, but at least the first game that I ever saw live was with you. Years ago.
Really?
Yeah.
Did I know that? I don't think I knew that.
Yeah, I did.
That's great. Was it one of the Jets games, I assume?
Yeah, it's obviously the Jets. Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah.
No shit. That's interesting. That's more of a slow burn than mine. My first memory of having a vested interest in a Bills game was Super Bowl 25. I was in 4th grade, so like 10 years old maybe. Grew up in Ohio, so I was also not like immediately local to Buffalo.
Right, which is weird.
Yeah, it is weird. I mean, it is only, it's like 3.5 hours. Once I did get into them, I used to go to a lot of the games growing up. Me and my uncle would drive.
What would be, and who was the closest
Browns.
to? Browns, right, Cleveland,
course, yeah.
right.
Which, my entire, everyone in my family is a big Cleveland. I'm a Cleveland fan otherwise. I'm a Cavs and Indians fan.
Right.
So it is weird that, I think it was also somewhat motivated by them being good, but also motivated by, the first memory is Super Bowl 25, and I bet a kid, my best friend at the time, $5 that the Bills would win. And I can't recall what the reason was. I honestly don't.
Can't even remember his name.
I think maybe I heard my bills. I think I heard my dad saying,
they're all our bills.
Yeah, yeah, they're our bills, not mine. I think I heard my dad saying that they would win that game against the Giants, and like this kid was talking shit. My best friend, and I was like, "No, man, the Bills are gonna win." And then we put $5 on it, and I went home, and I remember sitting on the floor watching the end of that game on my knees, watching on my little 19-inch tube television. And watching the kick go wide right, and
I remember watching that too.
Yeah, it just being devastated because I was so sure that I was right, and I had talked so much shit in my little 4th grade fashion at the time, and it's funny. It's been I've done a lot of self-psychoanalysis in years since,
which isn't doing you any good.
Yeah, but I've the thought that something that devastatingly heartbreaking was what first sparked my
your love for the Buffalo Bills.
Right, it makes so much sense to me.
It's like sort of your first sexual experience being so ridiculous and horrible that you need every experience
to also be fucked up,
to be really horrible. Like this is how fetishes begin, man.
It is.
People getting beaten around,
and it's a fetish. I can't say there's anything that I have stuck with the level of enthusiasm and commitment.
I can attest to this.
As I have been a Bills fan my whole life.
Well, it's funny because you still to this day, I mean, you listen to Buffalo radio even after losses.
Dude, I consume. Yeah, I will listen on Buffalo Bills Mondays on WGR or what? 4, 6, 9. 4 more, 13, and if you watch the Late Show, 15 hours of Bills radio. I will listen to that shit on demand, granted, minus commercials, so it's a little less than 17 hours.
Sure.
Or 15 hours, but a lot of fucking no, I can't get enough of this stuff, which is funny.
It's crazy though too because I mean, I'm a diehard Leaf fan, diehard Jays fan, diehard Bills fan, and it's funny that you are so much harder of a Bills fan than I am. If there was somebody who should have a special place in the Bills Mafia, it's you. Because of your love, your angst. You are the loudest person in a bar. You swear so loud. People actually move away from you.
Yeah.
And there are Buffalo fans as well. And they're like, we can't be next to this guy.
Yeah, no.
I think I've seen 2 or 3 people at Giant Stadium move away from their section
when I went to that Saints game this year and sat alone, because I was up in Rochester and I didn't want to go with, so I went to the Saints game alone. And they were getting their asses handed to them. I was sitting alone on the 50-yard line on the very last row of the Bills. It was the Bills side, the very last row 34 of the upper deck, whatever the hell it was, and I was sitting next to this couple that were scared. They were scared.
You are a loud individual at the best of times, but you grow exponentially your decibels when you're cheering on the Bills.
Yeah.
No matter where you are.
Yeah.
You could be at Giant Stadium, you could be in Orchard Park, you could be in a bar.
And that's why I watch most games at home alone in my room with the door closed, like a good addict should do.
A good addict should do.
Yeah. So,
I'm telling you, it's a dirty fetish.
Yeah, so that was the first game I ever watched. The first game I ever went to was in 1996. Like I said, my uncle would take me up to games, and the first year he ever bought me tickets I went to 2 games in 96. It was Kelly's last year. The Dolphins game, which they lost 21-7. That was the first game I went to, and it was like a heartbreaking. Jim Kelly threw in. They were down 7 points, driving at the end of the game, and Jim Kelly threw a pick six to Terrell Buckley.
Wow.
That was taken back like 90-some yards, and they lost 21-7. So that was my first live experience. Also heartbreaking.
Also a loss.
A loss. And then, and although I went to the Redskins game that year too, and Thurman Thomas went off, and they won like, I think it was, I want to say 34-21 or something. So that was a positive experience. So that's exactly what a good, what do you...
Addict?
Well, no, like... someone who, an abusive relationship.
Yes.
Someone, they treat you like shit,
Yes.
and then every once in a while give you a little treat. And, get you back in.
Absolutely.
And that's exactly what they did to me that very first year.
Are you sure you're not just a Browns fan cloaked in blue, red, and white?
Yeah, I'm positive.
Can you imagine if you actually were a Browns fan?
Well,
do you think you'd be alive?
That's the funny thing to me.
Great parade, by the way.
Yeah, that was pretty funny. I have tons of family that are Browns fans.
Yeah.
It's.
Do they look up to you because you're a Bills fan? Is there something?
Well, I think, in my opinion, yes, the Bills made the playoffs now, and that dynamic has changed a little bit. But I think it's been worse to be a Bills fan over the last 17, 20 years.
Because you get that treat.
Well, you get the treat, exactly. The Browns are just shit out the door.
Yeah.
And, you know that, and, you should be able to, anyways, just walk into it and accepting that up front. The Bills will fucking go 8-8, 7-9, just on the cusp of relevancy, and keep you emotionally invested, And I think that's worse, in my opinion. And also, just from a functional standpoint, you don't get better because you don't get the high draft pick. You don't just overhaul and can everyone.
You're fair to Midland. You're right in that center. You're not great. You're not crap. You're just right in the middle. You're basically lukewarm.
Yep.
Is what you are.
Mediocre.
So, and I love this drug addict analogy here. I want to touch on this a little bit more. If Buffalo is like our pimp, you know what I mean? Does that work? They really...
Bills, not the city of Buffalo.
No.
I think it's important to differentiate.
Yeah. Although I've been to Buffalo and I've seen some pimps, they all right.
Yeah. I've never been to That's funny. I've never been to downtown Buffalo.
Oh, it's great, man. Yeah. Oh yeah. But maybe
I hear it's gotten a lot better, much like all those Rust Belt cities.
But we are we are addicts. We are drug addicts. We are looking for more, and we're looking for this state of grace that is the elusive,
the ultimate high.
Utopia, the unicorn we will never hold, which is the Super Bowl victory.
Yeah.
Would it be do you think that Boston Red Sox fans secretly wish they never won? You know what I mean? Just to wallow like the Cubs fans. I'd like to talk to a Cubs fan.
Yeah, no, dude.
And be like,
honestly,
now that you won,
I'm like I said, I'm a Cavs fan too, and
right.
obviously you have that whole lineage of Cleveland thing going on there.
Right.
And I gotta say, I'm still impassioned and I still care, but I don't know if I'll ever be able to recreate. And this is something we'll actually get into later too, kind of like what the drought means and how much of your identity as a Bills fan is defined by that, and how does that change now. But yeah, with the Cavs won that championship, especially in the dramatic, crazy ass fashion they did, coming back from 3-1. Yeah. How does it get better? You can't get better than that. You know what I mean? So what are you now chasing?
Sox beating the Yanks, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So
that's who we are. That's why we're Bills fans, and
we are degenerate addicts.
Yes, yeah.
That's basically what it is.
Yep. So I guess getting out of us and starting to talk about what this should be about, the Bills. It's a little late on the delivery here, but we'll talk about the Jags game first. So it was their first playoff game in 17 years, and
how many touchdowns did we score?
Yeah, it's about as many as Tyrod Taylor tends to fucking put on the scoreboard.
18 years without a touchdown. That's what it is. 18 years without a touchdown in the playoffs.
I've listened to a lot of podcasts and Bills radio. That's the first time that take's been given, Phil. Congratulations.
Yeah, hot take coming at you.
That is no touchdowns in 18 years in the playoffs.
No touchdowns in 18 years.
That's funny. Well, no, hold on. 17 years.
Well, yeah, but we're going in too.
But they could. This is like what they said about the draft ending. The drought only lasted. The playoff drought only lasted 16 years.
Right.
This is season 17. Okay. So the drought actually ended. Mike Shope on WGR has hammered this in. This is what happened. The drought actually ended last year in week 17. We just didn't know it until until Andy Dalton threw that touchdown pass, which is
Thank you.
formality.
Thank you again, Andy Dalton, and to all those Bills fans.
I gave to his charity. Did you give to his charity?
No, but I will now.
You should donate to his charity.
I will. I think that was one of the coolest, most incredible, humanistic, truly wonderful, which makes Buffalo a special place, and Bills Mafia and Bills fans,
it ended up being
special town,
and
the greatest fans of all time.
$250,000 or some ridiculous amount of money.
Oh, I got more.
Yeah.
Yeah. They definitely got more. But the Jags game.
So the Jags game, yeah. It was fucking, it was exactly what everyone. It was like amazing how all the predictions, or the bulk of the predictions, nailed exactly what it would be. And like oftentimes it's just hot air coming out of analysts' mouth and fucking people predictions, etc. But it was Jags have a great defense.
Yes.
The Bills have no offense.
Nope.
And that's exactly what happened in the game.
Well, also nobody really expected Bortles to be that bad.
I did. I knew he was shit. Shit.
Hold on, man.
He is awful.
Nobody expected Bortles to run for 88 yards. He had more rushing yards.
They should have. Last year, when they fucking played him last year, he had fucking like 90 yards that year, or that game too, and he does that relatively frequently. It's not their most successful offensive fucking strategy, but it happens frequently enough where it should have been on the radar. And as much as I want to, as much as you have to give this loss to the offense,
yes,
the defense played pretty damn well overall.
Yes,
that was one thing. And in the third quarter, when that was, or even right before halftime, I guess, when they were marching down the field for that field goal
line,
I was losing my fucking mind.
Yep.
Saying how that happens once, maybe twice, for 20 yards. And and you have to have you got to have a spy out there. You got to have a guy. And like it looked like eventually I saw McDermott talking to fucking Lorenzo Alexander on the sideline later in the game, saying what looked like exactly this. Like right after a Bortles run, like you got to just fucking watch that prick. Don't let him do that again.
Yeah.
Even if you got to stop what else you're doing, don't let that happen again. So it eventually kind of happened, but it happened way too much before they made that change.
Before they made the adjustment, there was still like, what is going on?
Because that was literally the only effective fucking thing that happened for them on offense that entire game.
Correct. They'd send the receivers deep, and the safeties would go back covering, and then they left a gaping hole in the middle.
Yeah.
And
they stopped Leonard Fournette. Fournette was like 27 carries for 58 yards or some shit.
And then it was Blake, the torpedo Bortles.
Yeah, running for one more yard than he threw.
And it was unbelievable.
Right. But yeah, like as much as you want to, because it's like that's the thing you saw that went wrong. If the other team only scores 10 points in a playoff game, you have zero excuses to not win the game from an offensive perspective.
I completely agree. And we know that the Buffalo Bills defense is stellar. I mean, for the most part this year, they were pretty
good. I mean, they had that stretch where the 3-game stretch, the Jets game that we went to, the Saints game that I went to alone, and then the Chargers game after that, where they got some of that wasn't most of that wasn't the defense. Obviously, 5 fucking pickoffs or interceptions for Nathan Peterman, but they had that 3-game stretch where they really got ran over. That I think killed their stats and made them look a little worse than they were. But yeah, for the most part, I mean, that 5-2 start, running backs were like held to like 3 yards a carry or something in that stretch. I mean, they had the safeties, the defensive backs, period. Trey White and the safeties were incredible all year long. I mean, the defense is pretty good.
But we also gave away a couple of guys, didn't we? At the beginning of the trading?
Oh, well, I mean, we traded Marcel Dardius, but
yeah.
That probably would have helped. I mean, he's a big body, and he probably had a little bit of a hand in the Bills. Although LaShawn McCoy played pretty well, so they didn't really stop the running game.
Right.
But, yeah, I mean, I don't think. No, I don't think Marcel Dardius's departure had that much of a hand in it. The other defensive departure was Ronald Darby, and
again,
EJ Gaines and Trey White did more than enough at cornerback to compensate for anything Ronald Darby might have been able to bring to the table. So I honestly think that they defensively got the most, and this is one of the things I love about Sean McDermott, and one of the things I'm excited about. I think he got the most out of what he had available to him on the defensive side of the ball that he could have.
Did you believe that the Bills would make the playoffs this year?
At the start?
Yeah.
No. There's no rational Bills fan that could start a year prior to Andy Dalton's touchdown pass. that could as much as I want to be optimistic, and I probably am overly so historically. You can't rationally have assumed they were making the playoffs. I thought they would be a little better. There were, the 4-12 predictions I thought were low. I was expecting, like they usually are, just a hair below competitive. I was expecting somewhere between 7-9 and 9-7, just like they are every year, And that's actually what they were. I was probably skewing more towards the lower side and no playoffs. But 9-7, if you'd asked me at the beginning of the year whether 9-7 is a playoff team, I probably would have guessed no. So. Right. Even at 9-7 on the high side of that, they're still not a playoff team,
So we're in agreement. I figured, we had this conversation at the beginning of the year, and I figured that, like you, they would be consistently mediocre, as they usually are.
Yeah. And they were, honestly. They were. Yeah. They just had a couple things bounce their way.
There is some upside. We do have the 5 picks in the first 3 rounds. So that's going to be good.
We should let's hold off on talking about the future. But let's get through this. Anything else we want to say with the Jags game?
No.
A few points I had about the Jags game that actually worth talking about outside of just the general, ineptitude of the offense.
Yes.
Total sidebar, but the Bill Cowher breaking to the table before the game was like, I don't know, very, very Billsy thing to have on national television right before one of their games. Or rather, right before their first playoff game in 17 years.
Right.
The fact that that's what the national pregame show does is very Billsy, in my opinion.
Did you find the...
I was mildly amused by it, even though we shouldn't be. I was mildly amused by it.
It is what it is. It is Bills Mafia. I just hate... It's funny that the Buffalo Bills fans are known for breaking tables now. Like, there's that great tailgate and everybody is nuts and crazy, and actually a friend of mine, Brendan Holleran, did a great thing for TSN where he investigated. It was a nice segment there. That's a Canadian sports channel. Anyhow, it's nuts that this is what sort of, like, when your fans are more famous than your team. Isn't that not mediocre? Isn't that horrible?
That's the definition. Well, that's the thing too, and like the whole portrayal, which is true, I think, of that behavior is, the wallowing in self-pity that
we have to inflict ourselves with pain, like jumping off an RV into the snow onto a table.
The best one I've ever seen is the one where they were doing the bat spin thing, where the guy's and he does the bat spin thing,
dizzy bat,
dizzy bat, and then just smashes face first into the grill of a truck or an RV or something right afterwards. That's the best one.
It's something that
I recall.
It's worth of note. Let us say that when the fans are inflicting pain, as I said before, and having more fun outside the stadium than inside the stadium, I think the Buffalo organization needs to take a hard look at itself. And if the fans are overtaking said players on said field, then we should definitely be kind of gentlemen.
But that's I am optimistic that they have done so. That Terry and Kim Bagula have gotten some traction in hiring Sean McDermott, and in turn, Sean McDermott and Bean have Brandon Bean have started to do that, and I think that's what this season and the success that they had is the beginning of, hopefully.
The beginning of the turnaround.
Yes.
On our way to that path of utopia, capturing the unicorn,
the ultimate high.
The ultimate high.
Yeah.
Great.
Some other just shit I jotted down or thought of while watching the game. And this is actually a stat I saw after the fact. The Bills had an 18-play drive end in a field goal. And this is like, should Tyrod Taylor be done in Buffalo, this is kind of like his crowning, not achievement, but crowning ineptitude, is that the Bills had an 18-play drive end in a field goal, and that is the longest drive to end in a field goal in 15 postseasons.
Wow. I did not know that.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
That is not good.
It's exact. That offense is just,
typical.
Well, it's just so inept. Like, so it's again, kind of going back to like the Browns analogy. Like the Browns, you know they're going to be shitty, and that's whatever. Like the Bills have, I feel, you know, Tyrod Taylor is like the personification of this. Like he has all the talent in the universe. He just can't put all those things together and quite get to where he should be able to get to. And that drive is exactly that. They marched down the field. LaShawn McCoy had a ton of good plays. There was a bunch of good passes. There was a bunch of good plays. They get all the way to the 1. They could have fucking just ran it in with LaShawn McCoy like they got all the way down the field by way of. And, you know, I don't totally... The whole, you know, obviously the big thing here in this game, one of the biggest offensive gaffes is that they called a pass play there that you should have just ran the ball. And like, sure, like Marv Levy says, if it didn't work, you should have done the other thing. And I don't subscribe to that. The reason they traded for fucking Benjamin is to be able to do this, to be able to throw at a big body down the red zone and win jump balls. And like, that's what that is. The problem is Tyrod Taylor is not good enough to throw a good ball there.
Correct.
Puts Benjamin in a bad spot where he then is flagged with a penalty, and now the offense ineptly marches backwards, and they, of course, don't have the killer instinct or the aptitude to
go for a fourth down.
We'll just make that back up and get in the end zone, you know? And that's just, that's the whole... That encapsulates the entire Buffalo Bills 2017 season so perfectly and so poetically, as sad as the moment might have been. It's remarkably fitting, I think, for what they were all year.
It's like waiting in line for a few hours for to go to a concert for your favorite band, only to find like 18 plays, and it's we're gonna get into the show, and then the lady behind the ticket window goes, sorry, we're sold out, and you're like, oh, come on. Are you kidding me right now?
Yeah. Well, it's again, they didn't deserve to win this game. They in every way deserved to lose that game.
Yes.
As bad as the offense played.
Yes.
But they were close enough to win it.
Yeah.
It wasn't an ass kicking, you know. They still, as bad as they were, and this is so again Billsy. They dangle the carrot, and just as it hits your lips,
where'd it go?
Yeah, they yank it out of there, and you're just left feeling sad and empty. So yeah,
I do feel sad and empty.
Yeah, I do feel sad and empty. So you know that run that I don't know if again this is one of those instances of like I have consumed too much about this. You probably haven't even gotten wind of it because you're a little more reasonable in your Bills coverage consumption. But that pass came in from the sideline as a run pass option. So Rick Dennison, or the late Rick Dennison, now he's been canned since, the offensive coordinator, but that came in from the sideline as Tyrod makes the call at the goal line, whether or not it's a run play. Like everyone, like the offensive line is blocking for a run. Everyone but Tyrod and Benjamin on that play are doing a run play, including LaShawn McCoy. All like Tyrod Taylor has the call to whether or not when he snaps the ball,
is he going to give it to Shady?
Or is he going to give that quick pass, fade pass to Benjamin?
Should have given it to Shady.
Yeah, should have. In hindsight, yes. And he made the call at the line to throw it over to Benjamin, and obviously what happened. And I think, again, like, that's a Tyrod Taylor thing. Like, no NFL quarterback thinks they can't make all the throws. No NFL quarterback thinks that there's no way you could get to that level of play if you don't think you're good enough to be there. So, like, of course he doesn't think that he's not good enough to make that call at the line, you know. So there's only so much I think you can blame him for that, because the whole thing was, if Kelvin Benjamin has a one-on-one matchup, he's supposed to be able to win, even against Ramsey, who's like a Pro Bowl rookie, you know, that incredible cornerback that Jacksonville has. Like, it's still, it's his call, and he made the call that relied on him having the talent to do that thing, and he doesn't. He's not accurate enough, and it was a horrible ball, and that's why what happened. And like, that is Tyrod Taylor's career as a Bill in a nutshell. Like, all, you know, it's just like he hasn't. I don't think I've seen him in 3 years of starting. 3 years of playing, call a single ball audible at the line. How can a 3-year starter for the same team not have been given the keys to change plays at the line? And, like, run-pass option is kind of that, I guess. But it's not like, get up there, I see some shit, call 21, fucking jerk off right, and now we're doing this play that only him and and, like, because he sees something in the defense that leaves them susceptible to that. And, like, the fact that in 3 years he hasn't been given that freedom kind of says it all. And, like, I mean, the guy he's well-spoken, and he seems very intelligent, and he seems like a great guy. He works his ass off.
Yeah.
They say that nonstop. But he's got to be lacking something in the mental department to not have been given that level of freedom. You know what I mean?
Well, maybe, when, they don't necessarily have the weapons, or, they had Watkins.
That's bullshit, though, yeah, because, I mean, if you look at what happened this year, all those receivers that left, Marquise Goodwin was damn near a 1,000-yard receiver in San Francisco, which until Garoppolo came in was a shitty team and an even worse offense. And, yes, Watkins and Woods went to the Rams offense, which is like Air Coryell now, with a ton of weapons and a really forward-thinking offensive coordinator / coach that's like has them winging the ball over the field, so their numbers are going to go up a little bit. But those guys are all excelling in other systems, so they were good players.
Yeah.
There was just, and whether you can't say it was definitely Tyrod's fault, it could have been the offensive coordinator or vice versa, but he had the weapons, and he's always had LaShawn, who isn't, you don't get better than that, even as a receiver too. So like, you can't say he doesn't have the weapons.
Moving on to the next bit, because we've already sort of segued into it, your love for Tyrod Taylor.
Yeah.
Do you believe that Tyrod will be in a Buffalo Bills uniform week 1 next season, or do you believe they go with Peterman, or do you believe they draft somebody and start them? What is your take and your thought?
There's just no. There's no way. I kind of think. There's no way they can put it that they can go into week 1 with him as their planned starter. That's impossible. But
Tyrod,
yeah,
okay.
There's no way. Peterman either. I don't think there's no way you could walk into week 1 with Peterman either. I mean, I think what they probably do is let him go, get a veteran, and then yes, you have to draft. I mean, even no matter what they do otherwise, they have to draft. Just saying, this is like stock analysis, as this is what everyone is saying, but they have to draft someone high. That's the guy. And, like, even if he's not the guy week 1, he's in the wings to be the guy. And I kind of think for $18 million, which is what they'd have to pay Tyrod next year, you figure that salary plus Peterman, who's making a 5th-round draft, that's got to be nothing, $500,000 or something. And then even if they trade up and get like a top 5 guy somehow or another, one of those really blue chip quarterbacks, he's still going to have a few $1,000,000 as his contract. So, I mean, if you're talking less than $25 million dumped into your quarterback position overall, even though $18 million is going to your backup as Tyrod, I think he's a good backup level quarterback. The idea of having to turn to him for a few games does not scare me at all. I think that's a higher aptitude than you're going to get with most backups. But
do you think Tyrod would say yes to that?
He doesn't have a choice. If they pick up his option, he has to come to work. And I think he's also the kind of personality. He showed that when he got benched this year. Right. He's a good dude. That's why it sucks that he's not better, because I think he is such an easy guy to pull for and such a guy you want to see succeed that it's a fucking bummer that he can't do it. Like, the other thing with him like that, it's a mental thing.
I love how you hate him.
I know that too.
You love him.
Well,
you're sorry, not sorry for loving him, for hating him as well.
If I do, well, we had, I was fired up about it. We bought the kitty.
We bought the jerseys.
We bought the kitty size. We bought the kitty size toddler jerseys up. We weren't going to drop. We weren't going to the Jets game over this year. We weren't going to drop real money on a Bills jersey.
Yes.
So I was like, I found toddler jerseys.
Yeah.
Or, they were like kid size jerseys that we bought an XL of.
The Japanese knockoff.
Yeah. Well, they're authentic. They're authentic NFL jerseys. They're just they're kids extra larges.
Yeah.
So they fit us kind of snugly, but they fit us. And they only cost $40, and to me that was a reasonable investment for a Tyrod jersey.
That's a win,
especially at the time, because they were 5-2, and I was on a high. We were on the upside of a high, not the downside of a high.
I think it's interesting that we this is again being a Bills fan and that addiction and that sadomasochism that runs so deeply within our veins. The fact that we don't even have enough faith to go full jersey.
You have to really bite on a
We
jersey.
don't have enough faith to go full sweater.
Yeah.
We're gonna go half sweaters.
Yep. I was kind of thinking I want to get an Andy Dalton jersey
With Bills.
with an Andy Dalton Bills jersey with the number 17 because that will never not be relevant.
I think that's a fantastic idea.
That's what we'll do next year for
Alrighty.
the next game.
Now, just sort of circling around this quarterback before we move. So
I want to say one other thing about Tyrod.
Yeah.
As far as the mental capacity goes. The other thing in this game, the biggest what the fuck Tyrod thing is that Charles Clay out of bounds, like where Charles Clay had a reception, it was a first down, it was a meaningful drive, and he stepped out of bounds when he caught the ball, and 20 some odd seconds pass before before they get up to the line and run a play.
Run the fucking play.
Run the fuck, like, I mean, literally, even if it's just literally spiking the ball, run the play so they don't get 20 some seconds
to review
it and decide to challenge
up in the booth.
On the Jacksonville sideline. So so like that is something like that's a play.
That's a Tom Brady play.
That's a Tom Brady, exactly.
That's a Peyton Manning play.
A quarterback that that just gets it and sees everything happen and sees the matrix around him.
Yeah.
And that's what you got to have to really succeed. He doesn't have that. You know
now,
what I mean?
do you, but you still love him?
Tyrod?
Yeah. As a person.
I do like him as a person.
There you go.
I mean, honestly, it's as sad as it is, and that's part of the problem that Bills fans, people defending him are going back to this as their key argument that it's the best thing the Bills have had in 20 years, and like that's true.
That's not very
wildly true.
But that's
not, he's like 10 times better than anything they've had in 20 years.
That's not very good. That's like going, oh, this is the greatest Big Mac ever.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's still a shitty burger.
It's still a garbage burger.
Yeah, it's still a shitty burger.
Although every now and then it is good for if you got that little scratch, scratch McDonald's Big Mac, you get in there, do we think that? So now, just sort of moving forward, if they do, how is the draft this year? This is again unqualified Phil Burke to talk about this. I should probably know. If I was qualified, I'd already have the top 20 draft picks in my mind.
Yeah, no, I know. I mean,
is there anybody worth trading those first two picks to trade up with, or packaging with one of our current players to get somebody? Is there a quarterback there that could be?
Oh yeah. There's the hype. I don't watch college football either. I can give a shit about it. I went to Ohio State and I still don't care about college football. My whole thing is if you're going to watch grown men play a game with a ball, I want to watch the world's best do it. Not amateurs, so I can't get into college, but that's a sidebar. So I don't know shit about these quarterbacks, basically. The names I keep hearing are Sam Darnold, was it Josh Allen, I think his name, the guy's name is.
I am so unqualified.
And what's the other guy's name? The fucking one with the attitude problem. Plays for Oklahoma.
I do not know. Again, unqualified on these
whatever.
topics.
And then there's also Lamar Jackson, who's like a really athletic guy that everyone's kind of saying maybe can't play quarterback because he's so athletic.
So you think? Do you think it's worth it, or do we go fair to middling again next year? Go 9-7.
They have to get whatever they have to do. The thing is, like, one, I think it's really early to talk about this shit because until the combine happens and you get kind of the Senior Bowl and all those things, the last looks at these guys. You can't really buy into the rating systems yet of them. And also those are just projections anyway.
Yeah,
so,
and also, Tom Brady, speaking of which, he was, fifth round?
Sixth round?
Yeah, there's guys out there.
Yes, but your odds go up when you draft high, and they need to draft high one of these guys.
All right.
And have a made man. I think whether they trade up depends largely on... I think they got. I don't think they can trade up before the draft day, basically.
But then,
I think they need to see how it plays out because I would much rather them take the fourth or fifth best guy. And everyone else's ratings. I mean, they still got to like him. They still got to think that he can do it. They got to think that he fits into their system. That's precedent. But I don't need to get the absolute best guy and lose a bunch of picks. I would rather get the guy that. Ben Roethlisberger was a late first round pick. He's great. So, I want a guy that they believe in can do it and only moving up either a little bit to get that guy. I don't want them trading up into, the top fucking 4 or something.
Now, do you keep... You'd rather have Tyrod than Alex Smith?
I would rather have Tyrod than Alex Smith.
You would rather have Tyrod than Kirk Cousins?
I would rather have Tyrod than Kirk Cousins.
You would rather have Tyrod than Nathan Peterman?
Obviously.
Okay. All right. Well, that answers that.
But I don't think you have to make that decision. I think you get both those.
Okay, great. All right.
I mean, as far as getting those two guys, Kirk Cousins obviously is a free agent pickup. It's a $25 million probably price tag, maybe even more. And then you definitely aren't drafting a kid because you invested that much. I don't want that. I don't think he's that good by any means. I want to do better than Kirk Cousins if you're going to take a shot at a good quarterback. And then with Alex Smith, he is Tyrod Taylor to me, and I think you're just moving laterally, and you're going to have to give up a pick to get him unless they release him outright. Like, it's just, I'd rather just keep Tyrod, keep the guy you know, and let him do the same mediocre things that Alex Smith would do for you. You know what I mean?
Very Billsy.
Yeah, very Billsy.
Very Billsy.
But not Billsy, because if they get a guy that can play down the road in the near future, that's not Billsy. Even if you're watching Tyrod Taylor be Billsy now.
All right. Cool. Moving on. What do we got?
So look, I guess a few of the other like kind of off-season, looking forward to next season things. Some of the other players, Kyle Williams, whether or not he's going to retire. Everyone kind of keeps saying that like his last game, the Miami game at home, that he was kind of like spending an extra moment lingering on the field, and that he brought his kid to the Week 17 game in Miami in the locker room. So like these are all like the hero walking into the sunset kind of behaviors.
Sure.
And that he might retire as a result.
Yes.
I think the way shit went, that he's going to be back. And I think that's a good thing.
That's a very good thing.
I think if they can get him at a reasonable number, which I think is, he definitely doesn't want to go anywhere else. So if he does come back, it's going to be in Buffalo. So I think that already kind of...
Home team discount?
Yeah, to a degree. And I think he understands that his play dropped a little bit. But I also think that he was by far the best defensive lineman. Jerry Hughes played pretty well at times, even though he didn't necessarily have the sack numbers to back it up. But he was definitely the second best, if not the best, defensive lineman on the team. And I think at a reasonable number coming back, he would definitely be a contributor. And he also, dude, I read this, I saw on the feed today, during the Jags game, because it's Doug Marrone, who was a coach with the Bills, and most of his defensive staff is the guys that were coaching in Buffalo.
Yep.
So Kyle Williams knew that the Jags defensive line coach knew like their calls and stuff. So he assumed, knowing that defensive line coach, that he had tipped off the offensive line of the Jaguars some of the calls. So Kyle Williams was calling bullshit calls that he told the other guys to ignore, the other defensive linemen to ignore, because he was just trying to throw off. And that's like, you can't, that's as savvy veteran shit as you get. That's the thing we're saying we wish. That's the kind of shit that we wish Tyrod was capable of.
Brilliant.
Yeah. So that kind of shit alone.
So he was chirping fake chirps.
Yes. Yeah. Which is amazing.
That is fantastic.
Yeah. And I think too, like,
hashtag fake chirps.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's good. Hashtag fake chirps.
Yeah. He was doing the fucking post-game and pre-game speeches and shit. There's just so much added value that he brings even outside of it.
It's always great when you have a savvy veteran in there who's been there, done that, and when you see and perhaps there's a level of a addict in Bills players as well, especially when you get that treat.
Exactly.
Especially when you get that treat.
Dude. He's had to deal.
Maybe one more.
As much as we think we're enduring this heartbreaking fucking life,
he's been there.
He's been there on the field watching it. Like busting his ass for these failures. Like I can't imagine what this must have been like for him. I mean. So yeah, I think he'll be back. So
good. We'll call him back. And
some of the other player, Cordy Glenn is a player who, while under contract, here's a good test. Do you know who Cordy Glenn is?
No. I flat out do not.
Cordy Glenn is
unqualified.
Yeah, Cordy Glenn should have been the starting left tackle all year long, and was at the start of it. He had a bad foot. He's a great player. I saw an article today. Like the Bleacher Report Top 1,000 or some shit, and the headline was, "Is Cordy Glenn the best left tackle in the NFL?" Which is ridiculous. But he's a pretty good left tackle when he's healthy. He wasn't all year long. So the guy they drafted, Deion Dawkins, ended up coming in. I think it was their second-round pick. He came in, and he's looking like a franchise left tackle. So they don't need Cordy Glenn anymore. And other than moving Cordy Glenn over to the right side, which Jordan Mills, at a discounted price, kind of came on and played all right by the end of the year, the right tackle, who at the start of the year was said to be a huge weak link. So Cordy Glenn might be a chip that they can trade. He has kind of a high salary, but he's still, if he gets healthy, a great player, so it might be worth it. He's still pretty young. He's not old. So I think he might be a draft pick trade chip in that kind of trying to move up and get someone.
Interesting.
Yes. So I think he's a player that I don't think comes back. I don't think McDermott's got that whole patterned thing about availability, whatever the three things, availability, fucking something, like basically the three things he needs out of players, and one of them is availability, and Cordy Glenn doesn't seem to be available because he's hurt a lot in McDermott's eyes. So I think that is a player who is probably going out the door to the Bills' benefit. You know what I mean? Much like a lot of those trades last year that everyone said would make them horrible.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. All right. I like that. So that's good.
He's a player that I think's out of there. And then I wanted to go in kind of the few positions in need that I think they will have, that they will address, rather. Running back, wide receiver, defensive tackle, linebacker. So 2 on offense, 2 on defense. Running back is obviously more of a backup situation. LaShawn McCoy is, of course, all-world.
Number one.
He didn't
all-world running back.
Yeah, he didn't seem
LaShawn
to... He didn't lose,
Shades.
I mean, I think he actually played better this year than he has the past 2 with the Bills. And that was despite no passing offense.
Right.
So he didn't seem to lose a step at all. He is 30, though, when the season starts next year. So I think they do need to be looking at someone to replace him eventually. And I think you just need a better second back. I mean, they started the year with Tolbert. Actually, they had Tolbert all year long, and on more than one occasion, you got text messages to me that were just jumbled profanity about Mike Tolbert touching the ball in situations where he shouldn't have been touching the ball.
I believe you said "fat bastard," son of a bitch.
What was the game?
Tubby Tolbert.
Yeah, what was where you had the slant? It was like a second 20 play where they ran a slant pattern off the line to Mike Tolbert where he drops the ball. Even if he catches that, what's happening? He's the situation on that 1st and 1 play in the Jags game. If you're going to let Mike Tolbert ever touch the ball, that's when your 260-pound running back, who's really a fullback, should be getting the ball there to go 1 yard. Not they used him like he was in the shady ilk, or of the shady ilk, where you're looking to cover ground and actually get somewhere on a play, and he's just not fast enough to do it. And actually, the past couple games, he had a couple. He ran someone over in the Dolphins game, week 17.
He serves his purpose at times.
At times, he had a few good plays. A lot of the times, he would fumble the ball when he did get anywhere. It was just a nightmare. They need a better backup running back. I thought Taiwan Jones and Travis Cadet were the 2 guys who looked like they were okay at times before they got hurt during the year. So those guys are good depth guys, I think. But I think they need to draft someone. And the beauty of running back position is you don't need to draft high to get a great player. So I think one of the mid-round picks needs to be a guy like Jonathan Williams, who they cut at the beginning of the year, who was a mid-round pick, who looked great, and I still don't understand why they fucking let him go. He looked strong, despite a small fumbling problem at first, but he seemed to correct that last year. So, yeah, I think that's one position where they need to get better.
Okay.
Receiver is one, of course.
Okay.
I think Jordan Matthews is out the door. I think he's a free agent. And I don't think he really contributed much anyways. And I think also Deontay Thompson's a free agent, and I think he's a depth guy that they should bring back.
Yep.
Who they picked up mid-season from was it Baltimore? Chicago. And actually, as depleted as their core was, he had some pretty good plays that were not too bad, considering he seems like a practice squad tier player, basically talent-wise. So he had some pretty good contributions, I think. I think he should come back as a depth guy, but they either need to pick someone up in free agency. As great as Kelvin Benjamin is, if he does get back healthy as a number 1, I think they need a speed guy, and I think that'll definitely come in either the draft or free agency. So hopefully that will come to fruition.
Good.
Any offensive positions that you want to see addressed, Phil?
No, I agree with everything you just said. I think it's the words being pulled straight out of my unqualified mouth.
And then on the defensive side, defensive tackle, linebacker. We already talked about the defensive line, kind of. Even if Kyle Williams comes back, you still, Adolphus Washington's the other starter, and he's a rotation guy. Really, losing Darius left a big hole.
Yeah.
So they need. I think that'll be another high pick they take, if not a free agent, depending on who's out there. And then linebacker, same thing. Preston Brown is actually a free agent. Who led the league in tackles this year. Did you know that?
I did not know this.
He led the league in tackles.
Wow.
And he's, I don't think that good, really. So, odds...
Something right.
Yes, he tackled a bunch of guys, but someone had to. One of the 11 guys had to tackle him if it wasn't a touchdown.
Clearly he was in the right place at the right time.
But I don't think... I think him being the leading tackler will probably make him believe he's worth more than the Bills are willing to pay. And for that reason, I don't think he'll be back. And the other starter was Ramon Humber, who eventually kind of lost his job to the rookie Milano anyways. And I think Milano's a better player, so I don't think he'll be back unless it's like an extremely veteran minimum contract kind of thing.
All right.
So I anticipate there'll be either, again, some free agency spending or some big draft pick spending at the linebacker position. Okay, so yeah, I think that are kind of all the bullet points for the current Bills that we wanted to hit in this inaugural edition of the Post-Drought Reconstruction Podcast. One of the little segments we want to do each time we do one of these is Phil and I spent more than an hour, a pretty long time because we got into it eventually.
Yeah.
Before we flicked on our recording devices here, watching a game from the Bills' past that we'll call the Turn Back the Clock game. Turn Back the Clock game that we watched.
The TBTC game.
Yeah. Yeah.
TBTCG.
If you're not familiar with it already, a guy by the name of Andy Provin, that's the last name is Provin, he's uploaded a ton of games onto YouTube in their entirety. Some of them have the commercials and the pregame shows and stuff. So
commercials were great.
Yeah, you get the full experience watching these uploads of his, which are awesome. A
proverbial time machine.
Yeah, yeah, it's a Buffalo Bills time machine. Back to the good old days. So the game that we turned back the clock to for this episode was a matchup in 1991, in week 15 of 1991, the Bills at the Raiders. That was on...
The Los Angeles Raiders.
Yes, they were in Los Angeles at the time. And that occurred on December 8th, 1991. And that game, the final score, it ended as 28-27, right?
28-27.
Yes. The Bills had we did no research. We just picked the game randomly off tons of games Andy has uploaded. So the beauty of this is we watched this game like you would a new game. We have no idea, with no recollection of what happened in this game at all.
And they were good.
Yeah, it was good. They started out. It was a really slow start. The offense. I think Jim Kelly in the first quarter he was 1 for 5 for 3 yards. He
had over 50 pass attempts, I believe.
Eventually, by the end of the game?
Yeah.
No shit. Yeah, well, they were down, so they had to. So, yeah, they ended up getting behind. They were down 27-13, I think, towards the end of the game. Yeah. And with about 6 minutes left, they kicked 2 field goals. Their first touchdown was an Al Edwards kick return touchdown following LA's first long drive touchdown. Marcus Allen, I think... run play. And so yes, they had basically offense hadn't done shit basically all day. With about 6 minutes left,
bam!
Jim Kelly drives them down, bam! To get them down 27-20. They kick the ball off. Yeah, just the high octane K-gun offense firing on all cylinders eventually. They kick the ball off, the Raiders get the ball, and they quickly had to punt it back to them. So with I think it was 3 minutes left, the Bills got the ball again, down 6, 21-27, and Kelly drove them all the way down the field again, hit James Lofton on a nice post, maybe 15-yard post play. for the go-ahead touchdown, or the tying touchdown at 27-27.
With Scott Norwood.
Yeah, Scott Norwood comes out.
Final kick.
After having missed 2 field goals already that day.
And an extra point.
Did he miss it?
I think he did, didn't
it
he?
say that day? No, it couldn't.
Was that
No,
during
it
the
was
year?
a field goal. It was during the year. That
Okay,
he had
all
missed
right.
1 extra point during the year.
That would make sense since they won 28-27.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
So they wait. No.
Did they?
That wouldn't make sense. They would have had to score 2 touchdowns.
So unqualified.
So yeah, he didn't miss one qualified. No, he did. He hadn't missed one that day. They hadn't kicked 2 field goals. They had scored 2. Yeah, it was.
Okay, so then that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay.
It's hard when you're looking at old games. I mean,
it's so fuzzy.
It looks fuzzy on the screen.
Yeah, not to say Andy's uploads are bad quality, but it is still standard definition. It's not like watching HD quality these days. Anyhow, he hit James Lofton for the tying touchdown. Scott Norwood came out and damn near missed the extra point. It barely came on the inside left upright. But they did go ahead 28-27, and then they kicked the fucking ball off. And the Raiders, they have a minute. There's a minute left when that happens. The Raiders, you have to. It's only a field goal they need, but still, it's only a minute left. And they had no timeouts left. I don't think they had used them when the Bills were driving, was it? I don't know. Did they?
No, they had 3 timeouts left, but they elected not to use them because they thought the run game was so good that they were going to drive it down the throat. And that's when they wasted 20 seconds.
Yeah, even as we're saying this, that doesn't make any sense to me. But, yeah, they got the ball, and the first play, they do a run play to Nick Bell, a big, fat rookie that worked his way out of the league very quickly. I remember, I had his Pro Set rookie card. I remember the player. It was not good. They hand the ball off to him with a minute left. And close to 30, it was actually closer to 30 seconds. It was 57, I think, when they snapped the ball. 25 seconds. They snapped the second play at 32 seconds. They ran 25 seconds off the clock before turning to Jay Schroeder to move him down the field via the air. And his first pass is a deep sideline left pass that the receiver falls down on. Nate Odoms picks off, takes it back to the Raider 15. And ends the game.
And the Bills win?
And the Bills win. And the beauty of doing it like we do it, we were as happy when that happened as if we would be watching a regular season Bills game.
We were like, they intercepted! Meanwhile, this game was 26 years ago.
Yeah.
And we were like, oh my God, they were so good. Listen, there's one thing, before we move, or before we end the inaugural PDR podcast, the one thing that I really enjoyed was looking at that, through the time machine from Andy's videos, was looking at those heroes of days gone by.
Of yesteryear?
Yeah. DeAndre Reeds, the Thurman Thomases.
Cornelius Bennett had a lot of great defensive plays. Nate Odoms obviously had the interception. Phenomenal.
Daryl Talley.
Yes.
I mean, it was just great. It makes you feel all warm and fuzzy inside, and you just wish for, the days.
And what makes you remember the treats? Those were treats.
That was definitely a treat.
Those were early treats.
That was definitely a treat.
Yep. So it was
definitely recommend it.
Yeah, exactly. So again, that was the 1991 Week 15 matchup in LA against the Raiders. And if you just obviously punch that into YouTube, Andy's video will come right up, and you can watch it in its entirety, which is pretty cool. Thank you, Andy.
Thank
you actually
Andy.
hear this. So that's pretty much it. Our closing sentiments each episode. We're going to call the Am I Pondering Suicide segment of the show. And the idea there is just kind of the state of the union and where the Bills are at. This is called the Post-Drought Reconstruction Podcast, and the idea there is that we are looking at the Bills post long-running ineptitude or mediocrity. So, the idea is that hopefully McDermott, McBean, the collective Brandon Bean and Sean McDermott, have this ship steering in the right direction. And I, Phil, am definitely not suicidal right now.
Good, I'm marking that down.
Yeah. I think I'm very pleased. I think McDermott, like I said, I think he got quite a bit of blood out of this fucking turnip this year, and had them perform about as well as they possibly could have, given the amount of talent they had. And I think they've also, through kind of some of the frugal trades and stuff they've done, frugal moves, set themselves up to get much better next year and going forward.
To line that cupboard.
Line the cupboard with tons of treats.
A lot of treats. A lot of treats.
Our fucking treat analogy that we've had going for this entire time.
Well, I like it.
Yeah. So, I guess what's your suicide expectancy right now?
I think I'm okay.
You think you're okay?
I think I'm okay for the current moment. I think that the Buffalo Bills, as my football drug, they are dealing me with some treats, and I think I might just saddle on back to my daddy.
Yes, stick around, see what happens.
I might go see what Daddy's got next for his, for his little masochistic fan.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a really exciting offseason, and I'm very much looking forward to it.
Well, good. I'm sure we'll be talking a few more times about.
Yes, absolutely.
Before it comes around.
So thank you for if you actually made it all the way through this ramble.
And ramble it is.
Yes. Thank you for joining us for the inaugural Post-Drought Reconstruction Podcast. We will be here with our fan perspective. That's probably a little more loose and flowing than most of the radio shows and podcasts out there covering the team going forward.
Indeed. Thank you so much. High five to finish.
Yes.
Bam.
Go Bills.
Bills. Win for Buffalo.